Hey folks, it's Mike, and I would like to thank our sponsor, Sunset Lake Farms out of Burlington, Vermont. Amazing people, amazing product, high quality CBD that I love, and I'm using daily. My favorites are the Vibe Gummies, the Salve with Arnica, the Dark Roast Coffee, and my doggy loves the treats. And you guys can partake in all of these great products at a discount if you go to sunsetlakecbd.com and use promo code DENTED at checkout. That is DENTED at checkout for 20% off of your entire purchase. If you've been thinking about trying CBD, now's the time. Head on over, tell them I sent you. This podcast is not medical advice. We are not medical professionals. Topics surrounding mental health and trauma are regularly discussed. If you are struggling with thoughts of self-harm, please seek professional assistance or call, text the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at pound 988. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Dented Cans. It is your host, Mike Fanoia. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if you are, can you please rate and review and share, subscribe on socials and YouTube. It's all at MikeFinoia. You can check out all my live dates at MikeFanoia.com. Very excited to have our guest today. This gentleman I met at the PS 2023 conference in Denver, Colorado, Psychedelic Science Conference, where I brought Dented Cans there live. Chad McLean, he is the founder of Mental Joe Apparel. And it's really cool clothes, really good message, and he's given back to helping people. And wanted to have him on. We hit it off immediately, so stoked to have him here. He's talking to us live from Arizona. So thank you so much, Chad, for joining. Thank you all for joining. Take care of yourself, and we shall see you next time. Peace. Chad McLean, how are you, my man?
I'm good, brother. How are you doing?
Dude, I've been dying to chat. It's crazy that it's taken this long. I know you've been crazy busy. Business seems to be going great. Tell everybody first of all who you are, about Mental Joe, and then let's dive deep into our dents, buddy.
Yeah, you got it. So we'll do the 10,000 foot version. So Chad McLean, founder of Mental Joe Apparel, and we'll get to the point of I found ketamine/psychedelics, and that really catapulted me forward into living more present, understanding empathy, and not being such a venomous asshole. So from there, we decided, hey, let's launch an apparel brand, and let's use this apparel brand to not only talk about non-traditional means of mental health and different modalities, but let's have fun with it, and let's talk about psychedelics, mental health all together, and go after it. And like you said, we met at the MAPS conference in 2023. That was our first real big event. Yeah. I was scared shitless, candidly, because it was a ton of upfront money and just kind of a guessing game of like, what shirts did we bring? What's going to resonate with people? And in about 3 days, I'm very open about it. In about 3 days, we sold almost $24,000 worth of t-shirts.
Amazing, dude.
So,
high quality, high quality stuff.
Yes,
dude. My favorite shirt.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we went with the higher quality shirt because like when you go to your closet, like we all have those shirts in the closet that are crunchy. They don't feel good. They don't fit on the body right. And so I said, hey, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna get nice, clean, American-made t-shirts. Yeah. We're gonna pay a little bit more for them, but that's the shirt people are going to grab out of their closet.
And of course. And listen, if anybody is, struggling or, dealing with any type of anxiety, depression, OCD, picking out clothes is a thing, dude. And it's like, if you're going to go for the stuff that you're most comfortable in and you're most like happy wearing and stuff like that. So it's a challenge. And I travel constantly, right? So I'm always like every weekend or every week before traveling going like, shit, do I just pack the same stuff I wore last week on stage or what? Because it's like, it's comfortable. I know it looks okay. So you're nailing it, man. And it's the stuff is great. Your booth was a breath of fresh air. Like it was fun.
Thank you.
Dude. We found each other PS 2023 was a very interesting setup at the Colorado Convention
Yes.
Center. For those who have never been there, it's an interesting building. There's a giant blue bear looking into the building from outside. It's like a mainstay in Denver. But it was a lot to take in that week. I mean, it was impossible to visit everything. You know what I mean?
It
But
was.
you guys had such a cool energy, and all your stuff was like vibrant and popping. And like right away when I walked over, everyone was immediately like having a good time, chatting.
That's awesome.
Like it was fun. It was like a good hang. So,
man, I
shout out
appreciate
for
that.
that.
And that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to say, hey, like we need to come at all this stuff a little bit differently. Let's have fun with it. Not everyone wants to wear the bright, crazy psychedelic shirt, right? They want to wear something with a little hidden message. And at the end of the day, like, let's just be honest, there's a lot of weird stuff in this space.
Yeah.
Right. And it scares a lot of I just say I'm the average Joe. It scares a lot of the average Joes because you're thinking, well, if I go do this stuff, or if I go do a ceremony, if I go down this path, I'm going to be addicted, and I'm going to have nose piercings, and I'm going to have purple hair. And again, nothing wrong with any of that. I love all those people. Do your jam.
It's not for everyone.
That's right. Do your thing. But I'm trying to hold that space for the average Joe, that dude that's in Kansas or Iowa, right? That numbs out with a fifth of JD or a 12-pack of beer every night because they don't know that there's another way. And I'm here to say there is. It could change the world, and you've got to be open to it. We've got to remove labels from this stuff. And I'm transparent about it. Carrie and I talk about it all the time because it's like, you don't know what you don't know, but who I am today compared to who I was 4 years ago, light years of difference as far as a human being goes.
100%, dude. And that's why I'm dying to chat with you about it, because I do think that.
Yeah.
And how old are you?
I'll be 46 this September.
Okay, I'll be 45 in October. So we're right at the same.
Yep.
We grew up in a spit on it, rub a little dirt on it, quit being a baby. I remember my mother used to say, almost like it was a good trait, she'd go, "Oh, he's just anxious. He's just anxious." And it was like a thing where it was almost like I'm anxious. Like, let's go. It was like almost like you were motivated. And now we're realizing that
that's not the way to do things.
We're fucking dented, dude. And it's and that's where, and I am so happy to dive deep into it with you, because I think it's important that men of our age chat about our shit and not be afraid to admit. I don't know about you, and I'm dying to get into the ketamine experience with you, but one of the most important moments I think I had during a ketamine session was some voice told me, you can drop the bags. Like, you can let go of what you're holding. And it was like, it's like a magic eye puzzle type experience where it's like you finally see it and you're like, oh, fuck, I'm the only one holding on to this shit. And then you just put the bags down and it's like, oh, the bags were filled with cinder blocks and weighing me down. And now I'm like free. And I remember just tears streaming down my face, and it was just a moment of like immediate change. Yeah. I'm wondering if like, were you carrying those bags? Were you?
Oh my God. Heavy bags. And let's be honest, stupid shit. Right. I'll just dive into it. I grew up extremely poor. Grew up in a family where we actually stood in line for food.
Okay.
We were on food stamps. There's always a running joke in our family. We had a little Quick Mart down at the very corner, and we had an alley. And the Frito-Lay guy would drive down the alley, and he'd give a little honk, and we would come barreling out the back door, and I would jump in the trash can, because as he's throwing day old stuff out, I'm throwing it out to my brother and sister, and they're hauling it ass back to the house. Now, like, that's kind of funny, right? But at the same time, it's a little bit of survival too, So grew up extremely poor. I wasn't an academic kid. Like I said, I was your very average Joe. I wasn't the high school quarterback or the star center or point guard. I was liked by everybody, and I had a really good time. And I was a C student.
You and me,
so
we would have been
buddies. That's absolutely right. And it's just, I was like, what do I do? I grew up with an alcoholic father who was abusive, so I didn't have a male role model. My mom worked 4 to 5 jobs at a time. So she, unfortunately for her, she's kind of unplugged in the situation because she's got mama's brain and she's just doing the best she can with the tools she has. But what happens is we don't get the love that we need. We don't get the attention we need. We don't get, the fathering that should be there. So I go and join the military and joined as just a regular 11 Bravo grunt, right? Nothing special, just a grunt. Okay. And halfway through basic, ended up getting an airborne slot. And then in airborne school, the 75th Ranger Regiment came down. That's the home of the 75th Ranger Regiment in Fort Benning, Georgia. They're about a mile and a half, I think, from airborne school. And the liaison came down. I kind of said, oh, what the fuck, man? These guys look cool. They jump out of planes. They blow shit up. Like, I'm kind of down to do that. And ended up going to RIP, which is a Ranger Indoctrination Program, and passed that and, did really well and went up to 2nd Ranger Battalion in Fort Lewis, Washington.
Wow.
And was up there for almost a full year. And that's where kind of guys cut their teeth in the special operations, especially in the Army. It's kind of level 1, right? They need special forces and Delta and so forth. And I was doing really well. I was being looked at to maybe transfer over to sniper section. I was getting ready to go to Ranger school, the whole 9 yards. And so we did a jump in Spokane Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington there. And it was a night jump. It was a whole battalion jump. And the Air Force flew the wrong way. So as opposed to going along with the DZ, they flew across the DZ. And as we jumped out at night, guys were hitting planes. They were hitting hangars. And I ended up burning in. And what a burn-in means is essentially your parachute collapses. And you either got to pull your reserve or you hope that bad boy opens back up.
Oh my God.
But when you do a combat jump, you're 1,500 feet, 2,000 to 1,500 feet. So it's not a lot of time. You're not in the air forever. So long story short, I burnt in. I don't know to this day if it was 5 feet, 10 feet, 100 feet. I don't know. Okay. All I remember of that night was being completely dazed and not feeling anything from my waist down and just being completely out of it. Like from that point, I only remembered 1 or 2 like snippets of the night. Like I don't remember the after action review. I don't remember getting back on the plane. I don't remember flying back to Fort. Like I don't remember shit.
They just flew the wrong way?
And this is just flew the wrong way.
What?
Yeah, flew the wrong way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry that you
in lieu of that,
man.
Yeah, no, it's it's part of the journey, unfortunately. And so that night, and there'll be some, I'll jump around a little bit, but I'm trying to tie it together for you. But next month will be 4 years for me that I almost took my life. I was tired. I was wore out. My brain ran, at 200 miles an hour for 20 plus years. I was self-destructive. I drank too much. I popped too many pain pills and went to the cuckoo bend. I was probably nose to nose with my wife standing right here in the hallway, gun to my head, tension on the trigger. And it was, I'm sure if one word was mentioned between her and I would have pulled the trigger.
Oh, God.
But it was a pause, and I literally felt like everything froze in time. Went to the cuckoo bin for a week, and during that time, I just told her, as I can't do this anymore. I will pull the trigger. I can't. I need an out. I can't live, popping pills anymore. I got to help me. And so she dove in, and she found ketamine.
Let's pause right here for 1 sec, because I just want to ask you. I completely empathize and understand what you mean by tired. I don't think I don't want to glaze over this, because I think this is what, if this helps anyone that's listening, the thing that's important is to understand the exhaustion that, I didn't get to that point. I didn't get to that, gun to my head, literal point. I was figuratively there. I was asking my wife to leave. I was saying, I don't want to bring you down anymore. I've ruined everything for us and for, and I'll never forgive myself. And she's like, what are you even talking about? And I didn't know. But the exhaustion of waking up and your brain has already run a 10K and you're just coming into it exhausted. You're waking up exhausted. You get out of bed sore and exhausted. You go through your day like each minute feels like a year when you're in these funks. And when you lay down to go to bed, there's no relief. You're just your brain is constantly on a treadmill on 10. And I just want to know, can you add anything to that feeling when you say you were exhausted? I get it. Is there anything else that you were like?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed the head on a lot of stuff that you said there. It was like I didn't want to hurt anybody anymore, right? Because I was so venomous. I felt like I was always fighting out of a corner. I knew I had other friends that didn't think this way because they'd always say, "You're fucking crazy, Chad. Like, why do you think like that? Like, where do you come up with this stuff?" And I thought that was normal thought process. And then people are telling me, "Dude, that's not a normal thought process. No. You're in fight or flight constantly." And so it was, you're a loser, you're a bum. And before you know it, past relationships would just go down the tube. I'd start popping pills again. I would start drinking again. I'd eat like crap. I mean, when I broke up in a relationship, it was almost like the best time of my life because I started eating better. I felt better. I was in the gym, like things were clicking. Yeah. But then you get in that relationship and I would just self-sabotage the shit out of it.
Man.
You know?
I do.
But it's that constant tiredness. And what's even more crazy about that is when I did it, it was a sober decision.
Really?
Like I was so pinged. Yeah. I mean, we're talking 2020. We're in the heat of COVID. The country's completely divided. No one can talk to anybody in any kind of civil discourse. And we're still there.
Yeah, we are.
And I was just tired, man. I figured, you know what? Like, I think my wife and kids will be better off without me. Like, I'm muddying the water.
Mm-hmm. Completely understand what you mean by that. Yeah.
Yeah. So going to the cuckoo bin, and like I said, I'm there for a week and a half, and she finally calls me about the fourth day and says, "Hey, I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about ketamine. And I dove into it, and it sounds like it's got some good beneficials. Would you be open to it?" And I've always made this comment of like, if it was petrified dog shit and you said like it would slow my brain down and it would help me, I would try it. I was that miserable. Yeah. So I got my 150 milligrams of Effexor and out the door I go, and I'm going, what next? There was no real follow-up. Now I truly understand why people fall through the wayside in the mental health gambit or puzzle that we weave in traditional medicines. And it's hard to get help. It's hard to get a damn appointment to talk to somebody. Yeah. And so I started doing ketamine, and ketamine started with, the blast, right? You got the 6 blast up front.
Yeah. Explain that.
And I didn't know
Let's talk about that. That is when you go twice a week for the first couple of weeks, right?
Correct. And I hit it hard. And I went Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay, so 2 weeks, 3 times
I went
a week,
hard.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So a lot of folks, if you're not familiar, a lot of ketamine, and I still maybe don't fully understand it, but a lot of ketamine clinics have that approach of you do the 6 blast, and whether it's a 2 weeks or 2, for 3 weeks, boom, boom, boom. Well, it's kind of a testing. Maybe a little bit more about it. I haven't dove that far into why they really do it that way.
I'll kind of tandem. We'll tandem our stories here because they're very parallel. Mine was May of 21. I kind of hit everything fell apart, and it was just a thing of I was waking up in utter sheer terror and panic and just disillusioned. And every time the phone rang, if it was a friend, I was just assuming I did something wrong or someone was dead or they were calling to say, "Hey, remember when you ruined my life and did this," and so on and so forth. And it was just all the doors came off. And I asked my sister and my wife, like, I think I need to go to a facility. I think I need to go. I need help. I can't function like this anymore. And I looked up a place nearby, and it was, I was actually initially looking at TMS, That's why I got in touch with them.
Got it.
And
Okay.
it said, ketamine, TMS, whatever. Call for a consultation. So I called, 10-minute phone conversation. They said, come on in. I brought a printout of all the medications that I've tried over my life. And I had the thought to get I was so desperate and so nervous about how bad I was that I made a list of everything that I had gone through. Because everything that not everything I'd gone through, but like from childhood to now, because it was so front of mind, because I was just living in all of the sadness and all of the hatred and all of the fear and all the abuse and all the PTSD. And I just wrote it all out in a timeline. And then I put what I want to accomplish was, and I still have it. It said, I just want to be okay. And I walked into the doctor and I handed her a copy. I kept a copy. She's like, you're clearly motivated, huh? And I was just sobbing. I'm like, I need your help. Like, if we could do it now. And she looked at the paperwork and she's like, you have clear PTSD of trauma in your life. Like, I'm halfway through the first page and you've got stuff here that, and she goes, have you ever done ketamine or heard of ketamine? And I'm like, I've heard of it, never done it. And she goes, go home, talk to your wife. I had to schedule an EKG. I had to go for blood work. I had to do, it was all very, very like by the, book. And the first session I went in, and I like telling this story because, again, I'm addicted to the vulnerable now. The minute the IV hit my hand, I passed out cold on the ground. The needle hit my hand and I hit the ground, and I woke up with those like staticky TVs around my head, and I'm out of it, and I'm sweating, and I'm sobbing, and I'm apologizing to her that I can't even heal right, I said. And I thought at that point that was it, and she's like, calm down, just take a breath, drink some water. Such a kind doctor and all that.
Yeah, that's
good. And I sat in the recliner and they administered the ketamine, and it was twice a week for the first 5 weeks for me, Mondays and Thursdays, in conjunction with 3 days a week of intense cognitive behavioral therapy, like intense. Like, we were in the beginning, she was like, I think you may need to go to like a day session where you're like doing 8 hours of therapy. I wasn't listening. Like, she had to break me. And the ketamine in conjunction with the therapy hard off the bat helped me get to like the point where I was finally starting to see process. But like I felt like the ketamine was almost kind of like heat or like hot water on clay or something, and the therapy was the hammer that like smashed me. You know what I mean? Like, ketamine loosened me up, and then but I'll tell you, it was the moment the ketamine hit my system, and this is what I'd love to get with you on. I mean, dude, I was laying there not giving up, but surrendering, I guess, in retrospect. Yeah. And I remember just being like, God, if this doesn't work, I don't have any idea what else to do. And when it started to work, it was literally like somebody took 1,000-pound weight off my chest.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. I felt the same way after, I would probably say after about my fourth session, I started feeling like that. Like, I was like, I remember walking in the backyard and like literally pausing and going, holy shit. Like, there's nothing going on in my head.
Yeah.
Like, nothing's bouncing around. Like, it's actually quiet.
Isn't that weird?
Like, I'm like, is this what it means to be present? Is this what it means to live? Because this is not used to the quietness. Right. And so at that point, I slowly stepped back, and then I started connecting dots from childhood trauma, from military trauma. And that, to bring it full circle, about that fifth or sixth session, I really started putting intention behind stuff, because I didn't have an integration coach. And I went through 6 different ketamine clinics here in the Phoenix Valley.
No.
Yeah. 3 of them are completely out of business and shut down. So that tells you how bad that was. One of them, I don't bust anybody up, but one of them was such a salesmanship on stuff. I was like, I can't come back here And then the two that I recommend now are really good ketamine clinics here in the Valley. One is intermuscular and the other is IV. And they both have different approaches. And depending upon what veteran or average Joe reaches out to us, I kind of facilitate like, hey, I think you'd be a good fit over here,
So you're
for
helping,
XYZ.
You're helping with the, oh, good for you. That's great.
Yeah, 100%. And so I guess, again, zooming back out, I was like, okay, the reason I went to 6 different ketamine clinics is down the road, universe, God, whatever, right? Whatever we want to put on that, probably knew I was going to be a source of truth or people would reach out. And so, okay, I'll be the guinea pig to tell you what is good, what is bad. And these are the things I've done and these work.
You and I have so many similarities in our path, because I have a friend who received a cancer diagnosis and he was dealing with a ton of anxiety. And I said, he was like, do I do mushrooms? And I'm like, talk to your medical professionals, but mention ketamine to your nurse practitioner who's helping with your anti-anxiety meds. And it turned out like he did a session that I wish he didn't do, because it was, it wasn't what he ended up eating it. Like it was like the oral ones, which
the lozenge ones,
and they were trying
which are garbage. I think,
and the practitioner or whatever was trying to like put a VR mask on him during it and all this, and it was just like, no.
What are we doing?
Yeah, that's not now. Yeah. And it's interesting because I want to know, the place I went, I'm now going to an intramuscular center.
Completely different.
The first 30 or so sessions I did were IV.
Ditto.
And then I went to, it became to the point where, and we're not going to skip over the I want to get back, but there is.
No, you're good. We got all the time in the world.
There is a difference, and there is bioavailability is a big thing. And, making sure that, it's okay. It's the recording quality will be okay. It's just this thing sometimes. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, just the bioavailability of the medication, the quality of the medication, like it's all different. So you got to kind of tinker and play, because this isn't, start on 10 milligrams Lexapro and then titrate up or whatever. This is a different thing. So How did you originally, like your first feelings, was this your first foray into ketamine or psychedelics at all?
100%. Okay. I knew nothing about it. I'm your dare kid from Montana, right? Yeah. I smoked a little bit of cannabis here and there in high school, right? It's around, you're at a party. Okay, cool. I'll fit in. Let me pull it. But it's nothing like I was recreationally doing, So didn't know anything about it. So got into the ketamine, and same thing like you. I did about probably 25, 30. And to give people some context, it's over a 4-year period. And even more of a context is, when I first did it, it was like I was doing it every 3 weeks, roughly, right? I'd go in for what I would call a reset. And at that time, I could really tune in my body. Like I knew if I was more angst, or if I was clenching my fist, or I was a little bit more agitated. And what was cool is I would tell Carrie, like, hey, if you feel me being a little bit more shorter with you or the boys, or I'm walking around with heavier energy, like I'm real pissed off, like call me out, because then I know I need to go do a reset. Yeah. So then I would go in and do a reset. And then that 3-week reset turned into 60 days. Okay. And then I'm like, okay, shit. Like now I'm 60 days out. Okay. Then it turned into every quarter. And then I'm like, okay, I'm in a really strong mental stable arena. Let's start coming off of these meds. So I went from 150 of Effexor down to 75 milligrams. Again, no coach, no nothing. I'm just going at this like a meathead, and went after it. And holy shit, the 150 to 75, I thought I was going to freaking die. My body had major withdrawals. I would shake in bed. I would come out sweating. I could barely walk from our master bedroom to the kitchen. I'm talking shaking. I don't know, but I would have to say that if I was an alcoholic that was coming off that, or a heroin user, now I can understand the withdrawal symptoms. And holy shit, yes, it's miserable.
It's terrifying. And but the brain zaps you get, and So I was
Yep.
on years and years of Lexapro, and I realized that it was just
Yeah.
not right for me. I took myself off of it during the pandemic to microdose, like to do a regular microdose and
Okay.
macrodose kind of regimen. And then when I tried to
Yeah.
put myself back on it, I was getting like extreme cold sweats, tight jaw, like double vision.
Yep.
Those like almost like dirty MDMA feelings where you're kind of like just like
Yes.
rushes of
Yes.
like
Very lethargic.
nauseous and like weird and lethargic, but also restless. And
Yep.
it was horrible, absolutely horrible. And yes, I completely understand what you were, experiencing there. Currently, I've sertraline, which is like a generic Zoloft.
I was on it.
Yeah, that's tending to help. I mean, I'm on a teeny tiny bit of it now, but it's like,
Okay.
you come and go with it, and so on and so forth. It's you're constantly tinkering, But
Yeah.
anyway, go ahead. So you took yourself from 150 to 75, and it felt like hell.
To 75. Felt like hell. And so then I found some stability there. And then now I'm doing ketamine probably every 6 months. So I'm in a good mental, foundational of like, okay, I can recognize my body. I understand, when I get angst, I know I need to go on a walk, the gym, and eating right. So then now I'm really starting to pay attention to what I eat. I used to be a sugar monster. And when I mean sugar monster, if there were 6 cupcakes at a birthday party, I had 5 of them.
And you didn't have the
that's how
6
bad
just because you didn't want to be the guy who ate the last
Exactly.
one.
But if no one's around, that 6th get it dominated, Yeah. And that was my thing. But then I started paying attention to like, oh, I had that cupcake, and that next day I felt lethargic and I felt like shit. So then now with workout, now with eating right, I started looking at, okay, I can have a glass of alcohol, but I feel like kind of crap the next day. And if I have a piece of cake, I feel like kind of crap the next day. So now I'm really understanding what I put in my body is affecting my moods as well. Again, no coaching, just kind of really going through this in, like I said, a very knuckle dragger standpoint. How do I fix me?
Right.
How do I heal? And so we are about a year, maybe 2 years in now. And so I'm every 6 months in the ketamine clinic getting a reboot. And now I'm at 35 milligrams of the Effexor. I'm at where I feel like I'm close to a baseline again. And I reached out to a provider that does psilocybin therapy and was like, hey, would you? And they're like, no, you've got to be completely off the gear. We don't want you on any kind of pills. And I'm like, damn, man, I want to level up. I want to go to the next level. Like, what is going on? So found a provider in Mexico that was willing to take me on with that little bit of Effexor that I was still on, and went at it. Ended up doing 7 grams. And just to kind of offshoot the 35 milligrams of Effexor I was still on, because SSRIs and mushrooms kind of butt heads.
Yeah.
So in order for the mushrooms to overtake that punch from the SSRI, the 7.5, I think was what I took. But for 6 hours, I really didn't see a whole lot of shit, like honestly. And I was laying there, and it was like a big black movie screen, and I was pulling at my mom to see like what we had to talk about. I was pulling my wife, my boys, like I was trying to bring anything I could into the trip to be like, what do we hear? What can I heal? Like, give it to me, And the only thing I saw for 6 hours was a white pill bottle that came in, dumped out, and then would just fade away again. And I'm like, what the shit was that? Really? I took mushrooms and I got to see this stupid white pill. I want to see colors and crazy shit, right? Yeah. Well, next morning, have breakfast, and I'm talking to the space holder, and he looks at me and he goes, dude, that's a massive breakthrough. He goes, all medicine is telling you is you don't need the pills anymore, man. You're at a good spot. Be done with it. And when I got home, I grabbed whatever Effexor or any kind of pain pills I had left in my safe, put them in the toilet, flushed them, and threw it away. And as of next month, I'll be a year and a half with no SSRIs, no pharmaceuticals. In 20 years prior, I was on some kind of pills, some kind of anxiety, some kind of fucking medication. And now it's rare if I put it this way. I went to Vegas last week for about a 36-hour period for a podcast and some business meetings. I didn't have one drink.
Yeah.
I had one drink.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that I would go to the bars and buy everyone a shot. I'd have 10 shots and keep drinking all night.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but here we are. I'm 4 years into this journey now. I'm on no pharmaceuticals. I'm down 50 pounds.
Fantastic.
I live more present. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better friend. I'm just a better human being. And it all is because of ketamine. And ketamine was my catalyst to a better life.
Amazing. That's so great. And it's so funny too, because I think about sobriety, right? Like I think about that a lot because growing up, I mean, I did a ton of psychedelics, but irresponsibly. You know what I mean? Eat a handful of acid and drink
fun.
a keg and do ecstasy. I did tons and tons and tons of ecstasy at like concerts and stuff like that. And it nothing comes without a price. You pay a price for everything you do.
Yep.
And I think that's where the serotonin depletion and all that stuff, and the cap. I kind of tell a joke on stage that like I can't emotionally dunk. Like I don't have the emotional ups to dunk. Like I have a cap on how happy I could get. Like I can't dance sober at a wedding. Like it's just there's certain things I'll just never do. I see some people happy and I'm like, that's got to be fake. Like there's no way anyone's that happy.
Yes.
Like how the hell
I'm
is
like,
that?
You're not that happy.
Like, that's not real.
Yes.
You're really wearing matching pajamas for a Christmas card. Like come on. There's no way you're
Kick
that.
rocks.
Yeah. But and the thing that's inspirational about what you're saying is that, you get addicted to feelings, I think. And I think that no one ever says I had a breakthrough metamorphosis on Wellbutrin. You know what I mean?
No.
Like no one's ever like having these like, I think that the SSRIs are, it's what you don't feel when you're on them. And when you do
Correct.
the psychedelics, it's what you do feel or what you do learn.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Prior to doing the ketamine therapy, I did 2, not as large doses as you, like 4 grams or so, 4.5 of, mushrooms, one-on-one with a guide. And she was incredible. And, in the vein of vulnerability, what the hell, let's talk about it. The experience I had was, I was almost a father. I had an ex that had an abortion, and I support women's right to choose and everything, and it's nothing about that, but I just, that was an opportunity that didn't happen. And I always carried some guilt, and I always carried some, and I guess I never processed it, right? And all of a sudden, this blue light just appears in my trip, and it's a child that's just basically like, I've always been here. Like that's all I kept hearing. I've always been here. And it was this moment of like freedom where I was like, wow, I don't have to carry around that weight anymore either. And it was like this thing was just radiating and talking to me and going like, it's not your fault. It's, like I had to stay over on this side this time around or whatever. And it was just a feeling of kind of like, and I did not go into it expecting to work on that part. You know what I mean? I didn't go in expecting really anything, but it was just, but man, again, it was this thing just like a year and a half later on ketamine where I'm like, I'm the only one carrying this baggage. I'm the only one that's prolonging this pain, right? So
that's it.
The fact that happened and I was able to kind of like put that down. And it was interesting because the guide was like, you went in quick and came out quick. Like I ate them.
You got what you need and you got out of Dodge.
Yeah, and that was it. And then I'm like up and bright-eyed and we're outside talking and I'm just spewing. Awesome. And I had that nice big bright feeling of that openness, that good headache, I call it, Yeah. But it's those moments of just kind of like, wow, like you saw the pill bottle and you're like, you don't have to take those pills anymore. I saw this spirit or what, and I was just like, I don't have to carry this anymore. And I'll tell you what, this is the second time maybe I've talked about that. And it's and talking about it is like, it's okay. We have to talk about it.
It's a good release.
Yeah, because you know what?
It's a good release.
Who the hell knows who's going to hear this that's been dealing with it? Guys don't talk about this stuff, like, especially like the effects of an abortion or a pregnancy or a, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
my opinion of it has always been the same, that I think, people have the right to, it's their body, whatever. And I don't want to get no politics involved at all, but
Yeah. No, I hear you
but
on
it's just
that.
a thing of like, all right, well, I had a singular experience with it, and okay, like now I realize that it's like I'm the one carrying it, and I could leave it.
Yeah.
That feeling of
Yeah.
peace and release and freedom, I never got from Lexapro. I never got from Xanax.
No.
I never got that from Guinness.
No.
You know what I mean? So
No, and you live numb for 20 years, right? Because you don't know what a feeling is. And I'm with you. Like, I'm addicted to the feelings now.
Yeah.
Like, I do not care if I cry.
No, I love it.
don't care. It's like, because I can almost feel my body taking a massive deep inhale and a release as I cry, and I can feel it.
Yeah.
I can feel it fall off of me, and I'm like, oh, I'm lighter because I allowed my body and my spirit to feel and be in that moment. To go back to the military and where it all kind of fell apart too, was the only real intention I ever sat was I wanted to find out where my life really, really went south. Like, I knew I had childhood traumas and all that, but where did I make the really bad decision where shit just fell off? And I relived that jump. And what I ended up connecting out of that jump that I talked about earlier was, after that jump, that's when I started taking pain pills. And so I was popping pain pills because, again, you're in special operations. I'm learning to cut my teeth as an operator, and you've got to operate, and you're with a bunch of alpha males, and you got to be on your game. And you rub dirt on it and you go, right? I didn't know how bad my back was, but I knew it was in pain. I knew it wasn't normal. So next thing you know, I'm popping anything I can just to operate. And before you know it, I'm operating in a very foggy mindset half the time. Like, I'm waking up and, taking a handful of, 800 milligram, ibuprofen, and then maybe throwing some oxy on top of it so I can go for an 8-mile run and not hurt. And before you know it, now I'm spinning out of control, and I'm drinking in the barracks, and I'm fighting in the barracks. And at that time, we didn't have cell phones. We had beepers. And I go to the PX. And what do I do at the PX, which is the big commissary, which is like a big grocery store, which is like a massive Walmart, right? You go in there, and we had phone cards, and you would buy these phone cards, and you'd go to the payphone, you put in a code, and you could call anywhere. Well, I was broke. Why? Because all the money that I make is going to pain pills so I can still operate, and I'm broke as shit.
Man.
And I'm unraveling. So I go into this PX, and I steal phone cards. I stole phone cards.
Wow.
And I come out, and I got caught. And at that point, I remember the MP looking at me and saying, hey, man, like, I'm not going to fuck with you, because what's about to happen to you at Ranger Battalion is something most guys ain't gonna be able to make it through. And I got back, and it was game on. I got hazed for probably a month and a half straight of just, oh, man. Because it's blood in the water. And I knew it. I knew it was coming, I got hung upside down in a fart sack, which is a sleeping bag, and I had to recite the Ranger Creed upside down. We're in Fort Lewis, Washington. It's raining, and I'm trying to do this while I'm hung outside, and that's one of many things that happen. But
wow,
that's part of the unit. Yeah, that's part of the unit. It's part, like, they push you in the hazing world because they want to make sure that you can, get through the hazing part when combat shows up. You're going to be able to make decisions, right? So I ended up getting hazed, and hazed pretty hard, and then ended up getting my ass kicked down to, just a regular infantry unit, which I was there, I think, just shy of a year, and then I got out. At that point, right, I was embarrassed. Like, I really didn't even talk about my military experience. My last name used to be Elder. I changed to McLean to carry on my grandfather's name. So a lot of my old Ranger buddies couldn't even find me because my name has now changed. So I hid from it. So I was like, good, I don't have to talk to anybody about this.
I understand that.
But I had so much anger because I wanted to be the tip of the spear guy, and I was there. But I was so young, and I didn't have that father figure to, push through. I didn't have the emotional intelligence to talk about this stuff. And I just hit it. And then from there, like I said, the pain pills just piled on top of each other along with alcohol. And I was a bar fighter. And, I'm in Montana. Yeah. So you can just imagine the beer drinking and fisticuffs that happened constantly.
Those are serious fights too. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're bar brawls. So that was kind of the demise of where everything started to unravel. And that was, like I said, that, that fourth or fifth ketamine session. And then roughly about that seventh or eighth ketamine session is when we had that aha moment of go create an apparel brand. And prior to that, I was in real estate for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So I knew nothing about apparel, but something kept resonating constantly of go create an apparel brand.
Yeah.
And before you know it, I'm talking to my wife, Carrie, and I was like, I think we got to go create apparel. And she's like, okay, that's fucking random. So then I just started coming up with designs like this one you see here, or the mushroom grenade, or the special K, right? Yeah. And then before you know it, people are like, dude, this is kind of cool. And so the whole scope of Mental Joe is bring awareness to these modalities or medicines. Let's talk about the mental health. Let's talk about feelings. Let's talk about vulnerability. But as we become profitable, we want to take profit for a purpose. And as you know, ketamine and some of these retreats are not cheap. And there's a lot of average Joes out there that can't afford this stuff. So in our eyes, let's use apparel as a catalyst to raise money to get people through, a ketamine, treatment, or a psychedelic retreat in Peru or Mexico. And that's the overarching goal, because same thing, like you, I lived in the gray for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was tired of living that. And I don't want anybody else to feel that, because it's so funny now. People come up and we'll talk and they'll, I don't know. I'm like, no, you're ready for this shit, because I know you're making excuses like I used to. Like, just dive in and you'll be damned if someone dives into it. And 2 weeks later, like, bro,
thank you so much.
You're so right.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't know why I didn't do this 10 years ago, kind of a deal.
The thing that I think I look back on a lot, and I had young parents. They split when I was young and then got back together when I was 8 and had 3 more kids. And
oh shit.
Yeah, so that was a weird kind of like, all right.
Yeah, and, dynamics are off a little bit.
I guess, okay, this is happening. And but there was never any discussion, wasn't a thing. It was just I felt, I don't want to say collateral damage, but you're almost like a sidecar. You know what I mean? Like, you're not like you're right. You got clothes, you got food. We weren't wealthy at all. We moved a million times when I was a kid. I moved 10 times before I graduated high school within my town, the same town. Damn. So I didn't even have a chance to like start over at all. It was just kind of like we kept moving from house to house, and it was like I had to come up with excuses of why we were moving again. Oh, so that was like, I think, where maybe comedy started. I'd start like heckling, or just like, why would I want to live in this neighborhood? This sucks. But then I'd move to like a worse neighborhood. Stupid. But it was just a way of trying to, but again,
it was a defense mechanism.
But at 11,
it protected you.
11, 12, 13 years old, I was kind of like, black coffee and a pack of cigarettes in the want ads. And I'm like, all right, time to go get an apartment and start a family. And I feel like I got old very fast, and I found my escape in music. I went and lived on the road following the band Fish around the country, and moved out of my house when I was like 17. And just everything I did was just to kind of like
get away.
Yeah, but also to like make my own life away from what I, and then but I never really knew what I was running from. And I did well, succeeded at things I did, but there was never a satisfaction, and until I found comedy. And then when I started doing stand-up comedy, it was this thing of like, it was like reset, like I finally found my thing, but I still had that anger. I still had that fear. And then it all reared its head. I was said, like, leading up to the pandemic, life was almost like a car chase. Like, I was running from my shit. And then when I'm stuck at home thinking about it, it was like a 10-car pileup. And then I'm left to assess the wreckage, And I'm like, how the hell do I pick up these pieces? And what do I keep? What do I leave? What helped me? What hurt me? And it was too much to handle. But you said something about when you were walking around in your backyard, and you're like, is this what being present feels like, right? There's a moment after psychedelics, maybe the morning after, that you wake up expecting that hamster wheel, and there's no
Yes.
hamster wheel, and you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is this?
Yep.
Dude, people
Yep.
don't, it's these subtle things, Chad, that people don't
Yeah.
understand. I said to someone recently, my goal is just to realize that nothing matters, because everything
Yes.
matters. And they didn't understand. They took it almost as like nihilist or something, where I'm like saying nothing matters, like existentialist type, like
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Everything matters too much to me. Like every
Yep.
single decision was life or death, or I'm ruining something, or so to be able to go through a
Yeah.
day and realize like none of this, it's okay. Like if I have a bad set, if I don't get chosen for something, okay, it's all right.
There's a reason for
Yeah,
it, right?
man.
Now we can kind of zoom out and look at that. And I feel the same way. It's like us, like we've been trying to connect for almost a year, right? Like you were going to come out to Arizona, your show got canceled,
Yep.
and we're like, well, shit.
You're going to come to New York.
Okay, well, there's a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And going to come to New York. We were trying to figure out, where to, dump the kids off for 4 or 5 days so we could like make a touristy. I've never been to New York, so it's like if I'm going to go to New York, I'm going to do it all, right? But the same thing, and so like the old Chad, I would get unraveled about that shit. Oh, I got to get with Mike. We got to make this happen. We got to nail it. Now I'm like, no. When we connect, we're going to connect. And that's how it's supposed to all unfold. And my wife jokes about it because, I was diagnosed with OCPD, which is obsessive compulsive personality disorder.
Ooh.
So like the shirt's got to be lined up. The socks got to be done. Like, and people have known me for years. I'm an anal retentive prick. But now it is like softened to the point where my wife's like, hey, can I get Excel spreadsheet Chad back for a little bit? Because like you living in this fucking flow sometimes is driving me nuts.
They get used to it.
Yeah. And I'm just like, babe, like same thing with Mental Joe. I'm pushing so hard with Mental Joe that I'm wearing myself out, but then I'll take like a week off where I won't touch an email. I won't do anything. I give myself the ability to have grace in being the gray or the junk and say, okay, I'm supposed to learn something from this. Yep. Just set in it, just shut up, feel it. And the light's on the other side. It's coming around. You're leveling up. That's why you're going through this stuff. So now I have the wherewithal to really step back and look at this and say, hey, man, it's part of life. We're going to have ups and downs. The cool thing is now I'm present. Yeah. My boys and I now, so crazy how tight me and my boys are.
That's
now.
Great. That's great. How old are they?
So Connor will be 7 next month, and then Colin will be 6.
So fun
in August. Oh, and I'll go give you so the intermuscular thing, right? We've been talking a lot of ketamine and different, but one of my largest breakthroughs was doing an intermuscular, and I went through Enlightened Wellness here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Sandy and her team, the space they hold is beautiful. A little different. She sets in there, and as you're going through the experience, she's writing things down for you so you can review it later, right? Because when you're in ketamine, like all this shit's coming at you, but then you come out on the other side and you're like, oh, what? I forgot this
Dude.
thing. Well,
she
wrote down this. I would think I was 5 minutes into it, Mike, and my youngest son Colin came to me, and in that ketamine journey, he said, Dad, I'm waiting on you. And I didn't know what it meant. No clue. Got out of it. 2 weeks later, I'm laying in bed with him and I'm rubbing his back and I'm just watching him be a little human, right? Watching him breathe, get ready for bed. Like I'm just enjoying his presence. And I lean over into his ear and I say, hey, love you, buddy. And he's like, love you, Dad. And there was kind of a pause and I just felt I had to say it. And I was like, hey, I got you. And his little head just turns and he goes, I know.
Wow.
And it was boom. It was right there where I was like, oh, fuck. During the ketamine session, he came in and told me this. I had to confirm with him that I do have him so he can be his authentic self and be the little boy he's supposed to be.
Man, what a gift.
And so for people
what a gift to a son.
Yeah. And so for people that don't understand this and the woo-woo-ness behind it, and trust me, y'all that are listening, I'm not much of a woo-woo guy, but I was able to connect those dots and understand in just little tiny verbiages what I needed to do to be a better space holder father for him so he could grow up and be the kid he's supposed. It would,
Chad,
to this day, it's mind blowing to
Chad,
me.
how much did we need?
To hear that.
How
Big time.
nice would it have been to look up and have somebody go, "I got you."
Yes, and I think, again, not holding any bears on my
Nah,
mom
me
and dad.
neither,
Again,
but
they did the
yeah.
best they. But yeah, and I get a little angry sometimes by it, but I'm like, pause, Chad. That wasn't your journey. Your journey now is you learned all these lessons of the father not to be,
Yep.
so you could be the father you need to be today. And it's true. Like, my son is Connor, my oldest. He's so addicted to baseball right now. Like, we play catch before the bus shows up. Well, and we went to a high school game yesterday.
Great.
And as soon as we're done with the high school game, we're out front playing catch for like 40 minutes. And then we go in the back and we're hitting off the tee. And mind you, I'm not pushing him for this. He's like, Dad, I want to hit.
Nice.
Dad, I want to play catch. And I'm sitting here a little jealous. Let's just call it for what it is. Because I'm like, I reflected back to that little kid of Chad going, I never really had anyone to play catch and coach me and hold that space for me to tell me I'm good enough to keep leveling up. Yeah. I never had that. And so now I sit in those spaces for my boys and I talk about failure more. Like, hey, buddy, you're going to strike out. Hey, buddy, you're going to get hit by the ball and it's going to hurt. Right. But guess what? That hurts for a little bit and you're going to be okay. So I try to talk about all the negative stuff that they're going to encounter as opposed to positive all the time. Because in my thought process, if I knew like failure was part of the journey, like if I strike out, I got next bat. I'll come up next bat and I'll kill it.
Yep.
So I'm trying to instill that now. And it's like, shit, man, I'm holding that right space. And it's all because of psychedelics. And it's all connecting these little puzzle pieces that are leading to massive breakthroughs and aha moments.
That's so awesome to hear. And it's, I've been working on I've been talking about it on stage about that exact thing where you have those moments where you wish someone was there to hear it or something. You talk about it afterwards with someone who hasn't done psychedelics or something, and they're kind of like, you're weird.
What?
But one of the one of the realizations I had coming off of ketamine recently was that you can't have peace without the middle finger. It's pieces, fuck you, I'm number one. So if you can look back at things or look at the things that hurt you or the pain or whatever, and you can go, fuck you, I'm number one. That's how you make peace. And it was just such a silly,
love that.
It's silly, but it's also real. And at the moment I'm like, I'm sitting there in the chair, right? When you're in that post moment where every thought is like, am I the Dalai Lama, dude? Like, and I'm just like, they're going to be building statues of me one day. Like, I figured it out.
For sure.
And I set it into my phone and all you hear is just like, blah, 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 blah. Like, it couldn't even make words. But then I laughed about it after. I'm talking about it on stage and it's just like when people get it, they come up after and they're like, yo, that shit's awesome. And it's nice that we're doing what we're doing. And it's not a pat ourselves. I'll pat you on the back. But it's a thing of like, I'm finding when I bring shit up on stage about depression, anxiety, ketamine, mushrooms, therapy, SSRIs, all this stuff. Look, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. But we know what hasn't worked and we know what's worked. And to get up and talk about it, dude, the people who need it hear it and then they come up. I got guys in fucking all over the country. Neck tattoos, like tough motherfuckers.
Teardrops,
dudes,
like
I'm
bad
afraid
dudes,
of.
man.
Like when I'm on stage looking at them, I'm like, I hope they like me. And then they come up afterwards and they're like, yo, dude, like honestly, like I've been going through serious shit. Thank you so much for talking about it. Thank you. And it's like, this is we go through this shit we go through, I believe, to help the next generation or the people that hear us or whatever, whether it's through music, whether it's through comedy, whether it's through writing, movies, apparel, getting up and talking at like any event, like people, we need each other, dude. Like you and I immediately, I felt a connection with you. Yeah. We talked for 10 minutes? when we first
Yeah.
met, and
Yeah,
we've been in touch
absolutely.
ever
Yep.
since, because I think it's like, all right, a like-minded. I knew your story before even hearing your story, just because we know it. And I
Yeah.
look at you and I don't see sadness. I don't see depression. I don't see self-hatred. People say to me like, I never would have thought you were depressed or anxious or whatever. And it's like, I'm sorry I didn't look like it, but believe me, on the inside, I felt like I was
Yeah.
going to shatter
I was
into
a
a million
mess.
pieces, you know?
Yeah, I was the, good time Charlie guy. Like I
I
came to the
drank like a
bar
fish.
and
Yeah. Yep. Always
yep,
breaking balls,
you
having a
know,
good time.
exactly. Like, I mean, on the golf course, like my golf course game is not great, but my shit talking is bar none.
Hell
Like
yeah,
I will
dude.
bury you on the green. Like you will go to counseling Monday because I'm verbally abusing you so
Yeah, you're
bad.
taking up
I was
pickleball
just
after 18 rounds. Yeah, 18 holes of
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it. So I'm with you. I was the good time Charlie, but like it's so funny to me. Like we have to talk about these things he said because it does resonate with others that are going through the shit.
Yeah.
And I really don't take a soft approach with it.
No.
I'll have guys come up to me and like I said, and they'll give me their story. And I'm like, hey, when are you going to break the cycle? When are you done living the continued bullshit?
That's the thing,
And I
man.
said, I'm telling you, man, like put the ego aside, go start ketamine, go do psychedelics. And most people say, well, it's not for everybody. I'm on the opposite. Fuck that. I think if people did it in the right set and setting and had the right people holding space for them, it is a game changer for just about anybody if you're willing to put the ego aside.
Yeah. It should be mandatory before you run for office.
I'm all about like, hey, can we go to Washington D.C. instead of chemtrails, put like ketamine trails over the Capitol for a little bit and see if we can get some people to make some sense up there?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Oh, it's wild to me. I literally think psychedelics could change the world. It could bring the world and the community together.
Yeah.
And here we are. These substances are illegal. That most of them grow in the Amazon forest or they grow in your backyard, depending upon what state you're in, or who you order them from, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, totally. It's true. And
but it's
it's funny too. And I didn't mean to the thing.
No, you're good.
If we think about the horrible decisions that we made as like young men, right? I can speak for myself. Every single horrible decision was alcohol related, right?
Correct.
I've never once made horrible. I don't think I've ever made like a God damn it, what was I thinking decision on mushrooms, on ketamine, on LSD, on weed.
Yeah, I'm a massive cannabis advocate now. I mean, I smoke, constantly. In fact, that's where I get some of my designs or aha moments. I'll get blitzed really hard at least once or twice a week, and I go to the gym, and that's like my meditation.
Yeah.
I can feel every striation. I can feel everything that's happening, and then I voice note a lot of stuff.
It's like an intention. It's like an intention vehicle. I find.
Correct.
Like if you do yoga with it, it's like, oh yeah, you breathe into those places where before it's like, I think it's just like, it's helped me to just get the hell out of my own way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
agreed.
These engines, like the minute we're born until the minute we die, these engines are running and we never shut it off. We never.
Nope.
So it's up to us to every now and then put it in cruise and just like idle and just let the engine cool off a bit and that's the thing that I'm finding with ketamine quite a bit is it's like it's a car wash.
100%. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I get super frustrated with Mental Joe. Like, I mean, it's an entrepreneur. Like I'm wearing 20 different hats. I'm trying to make things happen. Me, like I tell my vision of what we're trying to accomplish. To me, it makes fucking sense.
Yeah, of course.
Seems pretty simple, but it's like, how do I get investors or somebody to buy in and say, hey, I'm behind this kid. Like, let's write him a check. Let's help him out with marketing. Let's kick this off. Cause like,
buddy.
At the end of the day, I say Lululemon is a $10 billion company. Okay. The athleisure business, and this is why we're getting into some of the athleisure wear, like I mentioned, the athleisure business right now is $330 billion industry. It is projected to double in 6 years by 2030. So you're looking at a $700 billion industry. I say, if I can have one slice of that, look what we can do and change mental health.
Yeah, man.
And I'll even go a step further. Let's talk about, like Chicago and the violence that's going on there. Can you imagine if again done right with the right regulations, the right protocols, and things dialed in, kids, inner city kids that that have gone through tremendous trauma. Can you imagine if they went through ketamine or something of that nature?
Amazing.
That they can get their shit cleaned up before they become adults, and now they're thriving as young adults, as opposed to how do I survive and how do I, because that's all they're doing. They're surviving.
And also, like you had said earlier, with like your friends that show up and talk to you about it, breaking the cycle. Now their children are learning from them how not to be like we did.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing I completely appreciate that. And just like you said, you get frustrated as an entrepreneur and you get frustrated as try being a stand-up comic. Representation, agents, opportunities, I have to, if I'm not pushing for me, no one is.
No one else is.
And I can't get bogged down with who's getting what and are they funny? Or do I think they're funny, or do they deserve it, or do I think I deserve it? It doesn't matter. I can't control it. The only thing that I know is if I stop doing this, I'm going to hate life or whatever, right? So, but getting up and talking and like doing this, right? Like, this is the shit that matters, and it'll figure itself out. You know what I mean? And that's the thing of like, that's, I think, the patience that I've gotten from the psychedelics is just, don't be so reactive. Like, wait a day, wait a year, wait a week. Like that knee-jerk anger, and then going, fuck, why did I do that? That was my life.
Yeah.
That was my life.
Yeah.
React and regret.
Agreed.
That was my whole MO.
Yep. Dude, same bus. In fact, we're on the same seat. It was same thing. I would go to a bar, I'd have a bar fight, and I'd yell at the girlfriend I was with at the time. I'd wake up the next morning, I'm like, the fuck am I doing? What an idiot.
Yep. And then you do it again the next night.
Exactly. And then I always bring the analogy in, or a scenario of, like you said earlier, put 20 young men in a room and give them alcohol, give them pool, give them stuff to do, right? Take those 20 men, give them alcohol, watch.
Yeah.
In 3 hours, there's fights happening.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. I'm putting money on that all day long. Now take those same individuals, same scenario, same atmosphere, throw in cannabis, maybe a microdose of mushrooms.
Yeah.
I guarantee you don't have one fight.
No.
I guarantee guys are actually having heart-to-heart conversations. Laughing and saying, hey, dude. And you're actually connecting as a human being, as opposed to numbing out with the alcohol on top of SSRIs, on top of pain pills, on top of, maybe whatever else you've got in your pocket or your friends to blow up the night.
Yep.
Like, it's, to me, like you said, we're not doctors, but we've both been through the thick of the shit enough to be like, hey, light bulb, this stuff works, and we need to talk about it at a lot louder volume.
Right. And this is us doing it. So thank you so much for being here with me. And I think Rick Doblin called it social science.
Oh, I lost you again, brother. I will edit that.
Is that okay? Did we chop out? I didn't hear the last thing
we chopped
you said.
out. I lost you completely there.
Oh, yeah. The recording is, this is one of the kinks with Riverside, but it'll be smooth. Like, we don't miss anything, I promise.
Okay.
But okay. Rick Doblin called it social science, and that's essentially what we're doing. It's like,
Yep.
We're doing research as we live and seeing what works and what doesn't.
No, I lost it.
Well, we did an hour and change, so I think we're good. But tell everybody that's listening where they could. I
love it.
Tell everybody that's listening and watching, like, where they could find you and all your great stuff, dude.
Yeah, so super simple. It's mentaljoe.com is the website. We're a mom and pop shop, so we're trying to figure out the old social media algorithms, but we're on about every platform. Instagram, we've got our biggest following on, I guess you'd say, but Instagram, Facebook, I believe even TikTok. It's at Mental Joe Apparel. I'm on LinkedIn for you professional people under Chad McLean, aka founder of Mental Joe. But super simple. We got, just about like I said, we got everything on mentaljoe.com, and we're going to elevate some different designs this year. And like I said, we're going to dive into some athleisure wear with a company that we partnered up with. So we're excited to get some of those out to folks, which you'll get a package of some of that athleisure wear. But man, I can't thank you enough for the time, and I'm glad we finally freaking connected.
Yeah, and we have to do it again. I mean, I feel like we grew up together, just in different states, And we're growing up now, dude. We're growing up now, and the right way, finally. So
yes, I agree.
I genuinely appreciate everything that you're doing, and I'm right by your side the whole way. And
appreciate that.
This shit finds us, I think, dude. So we just got to keep it up. You know what I mean? We went through what we went through to do this second half the right way for other people. So
yeah, agreed.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. And if you think this can help somebody, share it with them. We're not doctors. This is not medical advice. Talk to a professional, please. And don't do things be careful with the substances and where you find them. So thank you, everybody. We'll chat soon.